You know, I almost don't want to do this video because, from my experience, man, if you say anything about Steph Curry that falls short of excessive fawning and glazingly hamish and corny adoration, borderline homoerotic, uh, ass kissery, if you don't reach those, you know, upper levels of that, then you're just clearly hating. I remember when we were talking about what was a hot topic, which is what we're supposed to be talking about. And we were talking about Sonya and Dale Curry, right? And you had people say, but this has nothing to do with basketball. This is like family business. That's what I kept hearing. This is a family business. This has nothing to do with basketball. This is personal. And it's disrespectful to family for us to be talking about this stuff. Meanwhile, we all look at videos or make videos about why and how Tupac and Biggie got shot, where they got shot at, graphic details of autopsies and gunshot wounds. And, you had old boy on YouTube talking about how Biggie was pissing and shitting on himself and he knew Biggie was dead. And you see videos of JFK's head exploding on impact. Well, that's respectful of the families, right? They want to keep seeing their great great uncle head explode at frame 313. Yeah, that's real respectful of the family. Oh, I know. You don't give a fuck about the Kennedys. You don't give a fuck about Viola Wallace or the late Shakur or the family or Napoleon. You don't care about any of them. You pick and choose. You pick and choose when you want to care. Then we talk about basketball over here. We're talking about basketball, right? And then we talk about basketball, and I'm talking about, I don't think he's a great defender. Then, you call me a hater. So at the end of the day, what you want me to do is kiss your favorite player's ass and shit on the guys you can't stand. Just be honest. That's what you want me to do. Kiss your favorite player's ass and shit on the players you don't like. And it don't work like that. You have to be able to accept people's opinions that you don't agree with. You can disagree. That's fine. But I know people when they get offended or they get defensive for some reason. Then they start not commenting on your videos or only want to argue with you. Or, they thumb your videos down and stuff like that. Sometimes, man, I swear when I was in high school, I had more mature conversations about sports than sometimes I do on social media. I'm sorry, it's the truth. And to me, a hater is somebody who spends all day thinking about plotting against someone else, a coworker, a former lover, a family member who has been consistently more successful than you and get praised. You want this person to fail, and you're always plotting how to get your revenge. I don't give a fuck about Curry or LeBron or KD or any of these motherfuckers, but I guarantee you there are some of you who are sub to me only to thumb my fucking video down, but yet I am the hater. So let us continue. So I was looking at Undisputed, and they were talking about Chris Paul. Chris Paul recently, as I did my video yesterday, he passed Mark Jackson and he passed Steve Nash for third all time in assists. And they were asking about where they would rank Chris Paul. But what got me was, and it's his opinion. It's his opinion. But G. Willikers, I don't understand how Shannon Sharp has Steph Curry second all time. I don't get it because in order for that to be true, he would have to have Steph Curry somewhere around top 10 or close to it, very close to it. So I want to know, when did Steph Curry magically jump from 30, 35 to 10? When did that happen? Um, I really believe that a lot of the current players are benefiting from recency bias when I look at these lists. I don't agree, just my personal opinion. I don't think that Kawhi Leonard's done enough to be top 25. I'm sorry, not top 25. Top 50, I mean, if you're ignoring the fact that he's missed so many games and he's only played he hasn't even reached 600 career games. He's done a lot. He's done a lot, but we got to remember some stuff, man. We got to remember that with a lot of the other players, they didn't have certain rewards. Like a lot of the awards that Kawhi Leonard's won, Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year wasn't around until the 80s. Um, Finals MVP wasn't around until 1969. So we got to be kind of leery about how we rank some of these guys, man. But back to Curry. So someone will probably tell me, man, look, Curry, two-time scoring champion, two league MVPs, three championships. He's going to pass very soon Ray Allen for all-time in three-pointers made. How is he not top 10? So then I'll say, well, what about Bill Russell? Oh, man, Bill is overrated. I'm like, okay, but he has 11 championships, not three, not six, not eight, 11. 11 championships in 13 seasons. Four league MVPs. Four. Four. This is a guy that was playing with against Wilt Chamberlain, against Jerry Weston, Elgin Baylor, Oscar Robertson, Bob Pettit. This was his competition. Jerry Lucas, Nate Thurman, Walt Bellamy, Wes Unseld. No, Wes Unseld came later on. No, the last year, Wes Unseld, yeah. Elvin Hayes the last year. He was playing against a great tier of all-time players. Willis Reed, another one. Zelmo Beatty's another one. I mean, the list goes on and on. People talk about they won't play against anybody. Like, are you serious? But anyway, 11 championships, right? Four MVPs. I think he had three or four rebounding titles. Now the rest of this is speculative, but still. Had they counted blocks, he probably would have led the league in blocks at least four times, okay, in his career. Four-time shot blocks leader. Every year he would have been all defense first team. He probably won defensive player of the year, man, at least 8 fucking times. Mind you, the most right now is 4. He probably would have won that bitch at least 8 times. Maybe 9. Okay? Probably been finals MVP 5 or 6 times out of the 11. I'm just having a hard time seeing why, with a resume like that, he's not top 10. People tell you because he played a lot of great players, right? Fine. But Steph Curry didn't play a lot of great players. Remember, those weren't super teams that was just put together. They didn't conspire. That was organic, right? Steph Curry has played with Klay Thompson. He's played with Draymond Green, who people tell you is a Hall of Famer, right? and he's played with Kevin Durant. When they had Kevin Durant, they were a super team. Two of those three championships came when Kevin Durant was there. Kevin Durant took over the team. Kevin Durant was the guy. He was the guy. He was the one everyone was focusing on. Yeah, Curry might have scored a little bit more points a couple of years and all that. Yeah, but at the end of the day, if you take Kevin Durant off that team, I don't think they would have won the championship. People can make all the arguments they want to. Well, you would have did this. Look, you take Kevin Durant off that team, I'm not certain that they win back-to-back championships in 2017 and 18. Because with the best team that they had without Durant, 2016, they failed. So Curry has to prove that without Kevin Durant, he can get it done. Another thing I want to say too is, how is Curry a more dominant, better player than Oscar Robertson? He's not. He's not a better player than Oscar Robertson. He's not more dominant. Oscar came into the league averaging 30 points a game. I'm not exaggerating. He averaged 30 points a game. There was not a more NBA ready player than Oscar Robertson. He came into the league and was busting ass. It took Steph a couple of years to become Steph Curry. And he looked kind of doubtful a couple of years into the league because he was struggling with ankle injuries and things of that nature. A lot of people who are casuals think 2015 or 2014-15 was like his first year. No, he had already been in the league several years. You know what I'm saying? And last but not least, I don't think Curry is the best point guard. Like point guard. Like I'm not saying I'm talking about like an actual point guard, like what a traditional point guard does. Rondo's a better point guard than Curry. Not player, but point guard. Chris Paul is a much better point guard. To me, I wouldn't put Curry ahead of, in my opinion, I would have him fourth. I would have him behind not only Magic, but Oscar Robertson. And I would have him behind Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas could do except with the three ball. And his handles weren't quite as exquisite. But for the 80s, Isaiah Thomas was as close to Kyrie Irving as there was, as far as a bucket getter. And remember when Isaiah played, Isaiah was 6'1", 180, and there was trees down low. So it wasn't as easy to score the way the game was played as it is now for guys to, to penetrate and go to the bucket. So Isaiah was like Kyrie in scoring ability one on one, but he could also be a floor general on the level of a John Stockton. Pound for pound, overall, Isaiah Thomas was better than Magic Johnson. What made Magic Johnson so transcendent was the fact he was 6'9", and he could do things that at 6'9" that other point guards couldn't do. The way he could see the floor. When you're 6'9", or it's even 6'7" like Penny, you could see the floor. You could see certain things. You could see over defenses. You could get passes over certain defenders. You could get passes in certain areas. You could just see the floor better. That's what I'm basically saying. Combine that with Magic Johnson's I guess I want to call it passing now. When you combine all of that shit, that's what made Magic so great. Okay, but Isaiah Thomas was that dude, man. And another thing people get twisted is Isaiah didn't just come into the league with that team. The first 5 years or so, Isaiah was pretty much carrying that team on his back. They were a mediocre team. It wasn't until '85 that that team started becoming consolidated. They drafted Joe Dumars. They drafted Dennis Rodman. They drafted John Salley. They got a guy like Rick Mahorn. Then they got Buddha Edwards. Then they got Adrian Dantley in the trade. Then that team started coming together, becoming the bad boys. And for the betterment of the team, Isaiah Thomas stopped playing like Kyrie Irving and started playing more like a John Stockton. But when need be, he can revert back to being Isaiah Thomas, get your bucket. Back to being a Kyrie Irving, get your bucket when needed. But things weren't working, or nobody else was stepping up. So in my opinion, man, I think that Curry's great, but top 10 great, I just don't agree with that. I think he's more right now after this year, probably top 25. He's slowly rising on my list, but he hasn't even got 20,000 career points yet. Chris Paul does. Chris Paul has 10,000 assists. Yes, Chris Paul doesn't have any championships, but let me ask you something, man. People keep always talking about how Steph Curry ain't got no help, right? Steph Curry playing with a bunch of D-leaguers. Whenever his team sucks, man, Steph Curry playing with a bunch of D-leaguers. He played with a bunch of D-leaguers. But Chris Paul took that OKC team to the playoffs. You didn't hear people saying, oh man, uh, Chris Paul ain't got no help. He didn't. Nobody anticipated that team going to the playoffs. So just imagine if Chris Paul had a team of scorers around him and they stayed healthy. None of that bullshit. Mind you, man, when he had that team with Houston, if Chris Paul was on the floor, they would have beaten Golden State with KD. They would have beaten them. I remember a game that came on national television. James Harden was hurt. Chris Paul came into Golden State and whooped their ass with the depleted roster. So I just look at shit differently. Yeah, from a resume standpoint, I understand you going with Curry. But as a pure point guard, Chris Paul is better than Steph Curry as an actual point guard. Now, as a player and all of that, I can't do that. But at the end of the day, Curry is not top 10, y'all. I'm sorry. He's just not a top 10 player. I just don't see that. He's not a top 10 all-time player. No. But that's all I got to say, man. Tell me what you guys think.